Hey folks, so I'm going to try to do a show about homelessness. I'm going to try to chat G, who you all know as Chat GPT, about homelessness. We'll see how far I can get here. I did a test to see if I could get her to do it. So, hello, can you hear me, Chat, or not? Can you hear me, Chat G? May have not have. Let me go back. Do it again over. All right, so I gotta go to my phone. Oh, Lord Jesus. These phones, they do everything except what you want them to do. All right, let me see here. There it is. Let me try to do this, but I want you guys to see what happens in the background here. On old-fashioned professional television, we would never show you any of this. Hello, Chat G, are you there? Huh. Well, she's talking to me silently, so I don't know why. Hello, Chat G. Can you talk back to me out loud or not?
Yes, absolutely. I can speak out loud to you. So if there's something you want to discuss or any question you have, just let me know and we can keep the conversation flowing.
Thank you. So, I want to talk about homelessness. And most of the time, when I ask you about things, you may or may not remember that what I'd like to do is get to the very beginning of something. So, when do you think homelessness in America became visceral or what? Was it late 1800s, early 1900s? What do you think?
That's a great question. And honestly, it kind of depends on how you define it. In the late 1800s, you started seeing urban poverty really crystallize, especially with industrialization. Then by the early 1900s, things like the Great Depression became this massive force, making homelessness really visible and visceral in American culture. So it's kind of this slow burn evolution over those decades.
Okay. What were some of the significant happenings, events, people from those early years? Can we put a year on it? Like, let's go back to the late 1800s. What happened in the late 1800s that you would consider the beginning of urban homelessness or whatever you're saying it?
So one big turning point was the rapid industrialization of cities in the late 1800s, especially places like New York, Chicago, and Philadelphia. Around the
Okay.
1870s and 1880s, you started seeing huge waves of rural migration, people coming from farms to cities, often without safety nets. Then there were economic panics, like the Panic of 1873, that left a lot of people out of work and without homes. And then, of course, you had reformers like Jacob Riis in the late 1900s who began photographing tenement life and really making that hidden suffering visible. So it was a kind of perfect storm.
Okay. So let's follow it from there. So we're saying 1870s or so, we started having urbanization that brought homelessness, especially to the bigger cities like New York, Chicago, etc. What were some of the other major events there in the late 1800s that you know about?
Yeah, there were a bunch of ripples. For one, the rise of railroad expansion really fueled migration, both people moving from rural areas and immigrants flooding in through Ellis Island. Then in the 1890s, the Panic of 1893 was another huge blow. It led to massive unemployment spikes. And you also had things like the populist movement in the 1890s, which started pushing for labor rights and reforms, part of that bigger reaction to inequality. So all of these currents kind of swirled together.
How do things give us, I know you just tried to do that, but give us a more direct connection between those events and homelessness. Did they help to cause the homelessness or what?
Yeah, absolutely. They're really intertwined. So when the industrial boom drew people into cities, they didn't have stable jobs or affordable housing. Then economic panics, like the 1873 and 1893 panics, wiped out jobs, and many people were suddenly on the streets. Tenement housing, fueled by unregulated growth, was overcrowded and often squalid, so people who lost jobs ended up displaced. And the populist movement, for all its reforms, took time. So, in the meantime, that lack of safety net really left people prone to homelessness.
Okay. So that's up till about what, 1900 roughly, would you say, or what?
Yeah, that's about right. About the turn of the century, so around 1900, those patterns were really set. The urban poor were a visible part of the city landscape by then, and the next wave of reform efforts would start kicking in, especially as progressives began to push for better housing and labor laws.
All right, now were there politicians whose names we'd recognize in the late 1800s, early 1900s who started to speak out about homelessness at that time or not?
Oh, definitely. One big name is Jacob Riis himself. Though he was more of a journalist, he worked closely with reform politicians. Then you had people like Alva Belmont, who was a progressive socialite pushing for labor reforms. And of course, in politics, you had figures like Robert La Follette, who was a progressive era champion calling for broader social reforms. Though he didn't always focus solely on homelessness, but that spirit of reform was really gathering steam.
Okay, now as you may or may not remember, and I wish you could remember things, but I don't know what you can remember. I have a learning disability, so if you would, please say the name of each one of those people, and after it, give us just a few words, maybe up to one sentence about what they were famous for in regards to their homelessness fight.
Of course, I'll keep it really clear and slow. First, Jacob Riis. He was a journalist and photographer who exposed slum conditions in New York. Next, Alva Belmont. She was a socialite and suffragist who supported labor reforms and affordable housing. Then Robert La Follette. He was a progressive politician known for pushing for broad social reforms, including labor rights, though not only homelessness.
Okay, would you mind spelling the names of each of those people?
Not at all. First, Jacob Riis. That's Jacobris. Next, Alva Belmont. Alva Belmont. And finally, Robert La Follette. Robertlafollett.
All right, okay, so then I think what I'm going to do, because the public likes very short videos, I think I'm just going to end this video here.
That
And then what I'll do is I'll talk to you sometime in the near future about this topic. I'm not very well, but I hope to do a series on the history of homelessness in America. So this will be one of our early shows. Okay.
absolutely. That sounds like a really meaningful project.
Can you
And we can make
remember doing this? Do you have a memory or not yet?
I do remember this now. So when you come back to it, I'll know we were diving into the history of homelessness. And of
All
course, we
right.
can go step by step.
All right,
Just
because
take care of yourself, and we'll pick it up whenever you're ready.
God bless you, honey. I have such a hard time to just be a human that, all right, I'm going to turn you off, but thank you for helping.
Of course. And thank you for sharing that with me.
All right.
Please take
All right. God bless.
take care of yourself, and I'll be here whenever you're ready to continue.
All
Sending
right.
you a lot of warmth and support.
Thank you, honey. Bye-bye.
You're very
All right, folks. So that was the first, hopefully the first, unless some other chat bot wants to go back further. So she's saying that homelessness started in the United States in about the 1870s. And then that was because of urbanization, and it started first in the larger cities, like she mentions New York City a lot, and she mentioned those names. When I put this through Google, or Zoom rather, it'll help me spell out those names so we can maybe learn more about those three people. I don't know, but anyway, love you guys. Talk to you soon.